Okay, so here we are actually in our Traffic Vans account, so I can show you around and show you about short-term and long-term optimization on these targets. So it's it takes time and it takes looking at it every day. There's probably optimization softwares out there. I've seen them. I haven't used them. I'm a manual kind of guy. Want to get in there and know what's happening on the raw level. So um, the first thing we want to look at is the long-term optimization techniques here. So I've got one of my creatives pulled up, one of my ads, and again, this is the Traffic Advance platform. The other platforms, well, I'm sure they'll have a different look. It's going to operate on the same principles. So I'm going to take a look at my targets long term here. So I'm going to go 30 days as a long term mark, and then I'm going to sort my columns by the cost. Okay, so I'm going to try to figure out which targets look like they have potential, which ones are working, and which ones I need to remove from the campaign because they're not working. So having done this, I'm going to show my targets. So I'm looking for all my targets over 30 days, sort them by cost. First thing I'm going to look for, okay? So let this pull up here. It can take a minute, and then we'll be able to scroll through all the different targets. So here we go. Okay. Looks like it reversed the column. I wanted it descending. Okay, here we go. Alright, so here are all my different targets. You can see, my impressions, my number of clicks, and the cost. This specific ad is a in-text ad, an interstitial ad, and so Traffic Advance charges per click on this and not per impression. So the prices on these per clicks are going to be more than would they be per impression. So just understanding that. When we look at the bidding over here, the bidding structure, it's the same principle. It's just when you're bidding for clicks, it might take, a couple hundred impressions to get a click or something. So your bid would make sense to be 100 or 200% or times more expensive. So the principle with the long-term keyword look overview here is to find the targets, the keywords. In this instance, since it's a text ad, it doesn't have any URLs, and so these are all just target keywords. Which keywords aren't performing, right? Which ones have expired their usefulness or our test and they haven't produced a sale? So first you need to know, to do this, first you need to know what you can spend. So you got to go back and figure out for every sale I know I have $50 to work with in advertising, for example. If I can make a sale at $50 or less, then I'm profitable, or whatever that threshold is, $20, $50, right? Whatever it is. So, just for demonstration purposes, let's say I'm okay spending $55 to make a sale, and I'll still have some profit in it. So, here I've sorted by cost and the highest to lowest, right, on this ad just over the last 30 days so we can see what's going on. So here on this first target, you can see that I've spent $198. So that's above my $55 mark, but when I come over here, that's produced 2 conversions and so my cost per acquisition is averaging at about $100 or $99 for to get a sale. So that's too high, right? Excuse me. So I've got 2 options. First, I can come over here and I can click and I can pause this one since it's just, sure, it's making sales, but I can't spend that much to make a sale. There's no profit in it. Or my other option is to come over here and change my bidding. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this down actually. I'm going to write down this specific target on a piece of paper. And we'll come back to it, and I'm going to look on my short-term bidding to decide whether the solution is to reduce my bid and take a lower rank, which I know will bring me less volume, but it'll reduce the cost per sale, the cost per acquisition, or whether I just want to pause it all outright because I'm ranking where I want to be ranking on it, and it's still too expensive. So next line here, we'll just go line by line for a second here till we get the hang of it. The cost on this one was 102. Again, that's higher than $55 per acquisition. But if I come over here and I see that's actually divided over 2 sales, and so my cost per acquisition is only $51. So this one's fine. It's getting pretty close at $51. So maybe I do also want to flag this one on my paper here, write it down. So in the short term, when I start looking at ranks, I can see if I can reduce my cost, which will reduce my volume, but will bring down my cost per acquisition. So there's that. When I come down here, this one spent $100 and no conversions, and so you can see that it's already paused. So yeah, I would have paused that at the $55 mark. So the principle here is let your targets run until they've broken that threshold. So say it's $55, so you let your target run until it's spent a minimum of $55. At which point you can decide. Well, at which point if it hasn't made a sale, then you cut it off. You either reduce your bid on it and bring it at a lot lower volume, or you just pause it and say that one's not going to work, and move on and concentrate on finding your specific winning targets. So I'd pause that one, I'd pause this one, I'd pause this one. Here we've spent $78, but it's made 3 acquisitions, and so that's coming in at 26. That's great. That's half my target. So on this one, I would write down on a piece of paper, and on the short term, let's check where my rank is on that. I might want to increase it a little bit so I can get more sales, more volume, right? If I'm not ranking up really high on that, then I'll want to grab a higher rank. I mean, if it's worth it to me to get more volume, if I want to give up some of my profit just for volume. And again, that's a good exchange to think about. Like, even though you might only get 1 or 2 sales at a lower volume, if your profit on 2 sales equals, at that low volume equals the slim profit you'll get on 10 sales at the high volume mark when you're ranking really high, well then there's no reason to have to create 10 new customers, sell 10 things and stuff like that to get the same amount of profit you'd get only by selling 2. So it's a thing to think about too. So you just go through here, all through your keywords, and you'll notice, I've paused quite a few here because they've spent a lot and haven't performed for me. So this is my weeding out process as we go through here, and you can see, certain keywords are the ones that are winning, and the ones that are, 26, 36 per acquisition, $13 per acquisition. Now there's only one, so it could be kind of a fluke, right? The first mover. But what I want to do on this is, again, write it down and make sure that I'm ranking well. And these ranks aren't relevant here because I don't care what my average rank has been over 30 days. What I care about is what my rank is today or yesterday. So that's where the short-term ranking comes in. So that's why I have to write this down. So I write down that target so I can look at it when I look at my short-term. So I go through here and do that. With all my different targets. So then that's what I'm going to do on the long term. So on the short term, let's take a look at that. So I'm going to take a look at yesterday, give it a full day, yesterday's numbers. And this time I'm actually going to sort the column by the rank, by the average rank. So we can see how I was ranking yesterday, so we can optimize my ranking. So let's get this in ascending order. Okay, so here we are with my ranks in the short term. So you flip it over to the short term, so just today or just yesterday, depending on what you're comfortable with, or even just, you can even go as short as just the current hour or anything like that. Take a look at your ranks and see what's happening. So you can see here the ranks. 1 is the best, and I've seen them go as high as, I don't know, 15, 18, something like that on the bottom. So it just depends on what position. What this is saying is what position you're in. I'm absolutely in first position on this target, so I'm gonna get the most volume, right? Here are all these ones. I'm in first position or close to first position for getting, on average, for getting these keywords here. So what that means is that my max bid is higher than anyone else's. Okay, it's got a column here showing the opening bid. So I know the lowest bidder is bidding 77 cents for a click on this one. So the question is between 77 and and what am I willing to bid on that? So you have to set my max bid, and then what ends up happening is that um, the ad provider comes in and they just spend a step above what the last guy was. So if you're if the guy right below you is spending 45 cents to get a click, then the ad provider here will sell me bids at just a step above them, so 45.5, right? So that's how that works. Um, Again, because we're looking at short term, you need to know that this can fluctuate depending on how many bidders are in here, and and the day and the time and stuff like that. So you set those up. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at my ranks and deciding, do I really want to be spending top dollar on these number ones to be here, right? So are these targets producing sales? So on my long term, I'm looking at my conversions and deciding. So for example, the one we looked at earlier that was really expensive. Um, Here I'm coming in at a number one in the short term. So I'm spending too much money on that ad. So I'm going to drop down to be between the opening bid, which is 33, which would be the worst bid, to what I've been average paying. So let's just come in at maybe 40 cents per click. That way, I'm not paying top dollar. It brings me probably down into a rank closer to 2 or 3. So I'll still get displays, impressions and clicks on this target, but I won't be spending so much to get them. So maybe that'll bring my costs down to where my cost per acquisition is within my range, right? An interesting thing is, it depends on your capacity. If you've got a lot of profit, then yeah, you can afford to rank in number one here and spend the extra money to get the extra volume, because you're the guy who always gets that display. Or if you have a little bit tighter budget, want to keep a little bit more of your profit, and you're not so concerned about volume per target, you can sit in the second place range. So you're averaging on all these targets that you're coming in second place, and so you adjust these accordingly to make sure you're in second place or third place. In this specific ad provider, Traffic Vance, I'd recommend staying in the top 3. So maybe being 3 if you're tight budget, 2 or 1 if you've got more flexibility, but definitely 3 if you want to get a lot of impressions. If you take a look here in this impressions column, you'll notice that the impression count in the 1 is pretty high. When we come down to here to the 2s, we don't have the hundreds of impressions anymore. We have more of the 20 impressions, 60 impressions, 16 impressions, 18 impressions, right? That's that ranking right there. And then in the 3 zone here, I guess there's some exceptions because these are really, really popular ones. But in the 3 rank, you're getting 10 impressions, 3 impressions, stuff like that. So, and then these really, really big keywords, maybe you don't want to spend enough to be number 1 on those because it's just going to be too expensive. So you bring your really, really spendy and big keywords down into the 3 range. That way you get the bargain price, but you still get the volume. So that's what we've done with these ones right there. So I hope that all makes sense. But what you do to get these targets up here where you want them is you're uploading a ton of targets that you saved from your target research, from your keyword research and URL research. You upload them all into here, and at first it's going to give you just a generic bid, right? They're all going to come in at 5 cents or less. I think the minimum on this one is 5 cents for the clicks and 1 cent for the impressions when you're using the pop-up displays. So this is a text ad. It's 5 cents because it's a click, and the other one it's 1 cent because it's a display. It'll bring them in at the minimum, right? So you want to at least take them up to a place where you can be competitively bidding, so you can at least start to see what's happening, right? So they'll all come in and they'll all probably be ranked low. So what you got to do is you got to come over here and you got to use the opening bid. So now you're at least competitive, and I'd start opening bid plus 10%, right? So with that change right there, um, save that change, and now you're bidding at least in a place where you can start to get impressions, right? And so once this change happens, wait a couple hours, come back in, and you'll start to see a ranking number. You'll start to see that you're ranking fifth place or fourth place or something like that. But you're not going to see those ranks until you've got this number up in the range. Okay, so make sure that it's a minimum opening bid, if not 10 or 20% higher, for you to start optimizing your targets to get them up to where you can start playing with those numbers and pushing them up and down. Yeah, I mean the nice thing is once you kind of got things adjusted, you can kind of just let the ad run. Once you kind of have things where you want them, you can kind of just let the ad run and just check up on it now and then. And always check up on your bidding because people may drop out or people might come in, and so um, you might start losing your ranks, and you need to up your bid because there's more people have hopped into the market, or people give up and go away because they spent themselves silly and they don't have any more space, and so you could be overspending on some of them. So you want to check in routinely on that, but that's how that works. Let me click over to one that is that's not pay per click, but instead by impression, so you can see that the difference there. So let's do it over here. All right, so here we are looking, and you'll notice the prices are a whole different game over here when you're paying per impression, right? And we're just looking at the last hour. Um, we'll just sort by impressions to see what's going on, to see where the volume is in the last hour. So we've had, I mean, in the last hour, quite a few impressions: 10, 7, 6, 5, 3, 3. So our ads being displayed, right? Um, on average, I'm coming in at a rank 1.8. Maybe I'd be more comfortable at a 2 there, but that's pretty close to 2, 2.9. That's good. Here's a 2, here's a 3, 3, 2. So the ones I'm getting impressions for, I feel like I'm ranking about right on. So that's good. This one's a little bit low. Got one impression, and I ranked pretty low on it, so I want to increase that by, let's say 10% and save that change. But yeah, you can see that the prices are totally different for an impression. I mean, we're talking about 3 cents or 2 cents, or in some cases, 1 cent, 1.1 cent per impression. Then you just got to see who clicks through and who buys and where your conversions are coming from and optimize that way. So hope that helps you understand all of that. Um, Optimization. Anyway, it's pretty fun.